Happy Monday to you. I am Jen Yates, the generator. You're locked on to LRS102.com, the Walrus, and I'm so pumped. I'm always pumped. I'm always excited. Because I have Michael Drury up in the studio today. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. I'm so thankful to have you here, and I'm thankful that you said yes and come in to talk on LRS and all this good stuff.
I'm just so honored to be here.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful that you asked me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, when I got this show, they literally were like, you can do anything you want. So I was like, why not use the platform to talk?
Did they not know you?
Right. Oh, I need to hook up my sound effects. I usually have a little sound effect, but I've got a little bell. That's my cuss bell. If anybody accidentally says a cuss word, then I hit the bell, and then we put money in the swear jar that we donate out to charity at the end of the month. So we cuss for a cause here at LRS. Yeah.
So it's okay.
It's totally okay.
Oh,
if
good,
you accidentally drop a bomb, we love that, actually.
All right.
We encourage cussing just so we can get more money for charity.
Do you take credit cards?
We should. I'm sure I could work out a Venmo payment or a PayPal or whatever it is they're using today. Well, Michael, it's so cool to have you up in here. Like I said, I was trying to use the platform for, musicians, theater, everything that I love, LGBTQ issues, just literally everything.
I got all those covered.
I know you do. I do too, right? I know. That's why I love you so much. So you pretty much founded Pandora, did you not?
I didn't.
Okay, well, tell us a story about that, because you are from Pandora. That's how I know you, but even though I know you're in the community and you do a lot of cool things. So tell me a little bit about how that came to fruition.
How Pandora became?
Yeah.
Three guys got together because they wanted to write a musical based on the myth of Pandora.
Okay.
And to do that, they decided they would produce some theater, some shows to make a little money. Well, anybody in theater knows that's a ridiculous proposition. So they never wrote that musical, but that's why they founded the company, was to do that. So they produced several shows, but they never got to the Pandora musical.
Did they just put it on the back burner, or are they like, is it something that could happen in the future? Maybe.
I doubt that it would happen now, because our mission is totally different than it was then.
Wow.
But the curious thing is that they were producing shows, and most of them were LGBTQ themed, even though they weren't really on purpose that way.
Right.
And so then all over the 6 years after they founded in 1995, each one went their separate ways. And they kind of handed it to me in a box, the remaining founder, Bo Cecil. Do you know Bo?
I do not know Bo Cecil, but hook me up. I love to know people. Yeah, that's what we do here.
So he just kind of handed me a box and said, here you go, which was also ironic.
Literally,
box.
right.
Literally
I was
handed
like,
me a box.
That's amazing.
It had a few props, a few little pieces of costumes, and a mailing list.
No severed heads.
And a very small mailing list.
I was going to say, nothing too bad. Yeah. That's wild. Well, what an interesting story.
Yeah.
And your life almost played out like a musical in a way.
It totally did. And that was in 2001-ish, and I started producing in 2003.
Yeah. I moved to Louisville in 1999, so right after I got here, and I was still working in television. I had done stuff in music, but I had not branched out into theater yet. But yeah, so I remember you as far back as I can remember. You know what I mean? Pandora coming around, I was already out by then, so I was all about being in the LGBT community and just being active and seen and whatnot in that sense. So I remember Pandora as far as I can, as far as
back
soon
to
as I've
99?
come back here. Yeah, back to, well, not 99, but back to at least early 2000s, when I finally started, paying attention, I guess. Yeah. So that's wild.
That is crazy.
So what was the first one you directed at Pandora once you were there?
The Laramie Project.
Oh, ooh. How was that?
It was great.
Wow.
We did... we had been in rehearsal for about 3 weeks. We had about 3 weeks left to go. This is an interesting story if you got a time for a quick one.
Yeah, we've got 2 hours with you. You can say anything you want.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we lost the venue where we were going to perform. And I didn't know anybody. I had a little tiny mailing list that Bo had handed me. And I really didn't know anybody. So I wrote to those 6 people. And I said, here's the deal. I've lost the space. I need a place to perform. Do you have any contacts whatsoever? And within like 6 hours, I heard from my friend Nick, and he said he had talked to the co-pastors at his church. They had talked to their board, and they would love to have us at their chapel.
Well, kudos to them. What church was it?
That's
Can you
Central
say
Presbyterian
it?
Church.
Central Presbyterian. We love you for that.
And we've had a long relationship with them since then.
Very cool.
So that's our home base for rehearsals.
I'm always a big supporter of, because of where I come from in a very small town, it was not accepted to be out and gay.
Right.
And
me too.
Yeah, so you can relate to that. So I've always been what I consider myself a Christian.
Yeah.
And, it took me coming to Louisville and seeing these churches like a Highland Baptist, or I had just had Tracy Patton in on from New Beginnings across the way, across the Ohio over there.
Across the pond.
Yeah, across the pond. And I'm always a big supporter of, lending a voice to any church who will step up to the plate.
Yeah.
If you tell them you're doing the Laramie Project and they say we'll accept you where we are, then
exactly.
they're a true Christian church.
Yes, and the chapel where we performed has this huge stained glass window behind the stage where we performed. It was really stunning. Yeah, and very appropriate.
Churches are beautiful.
And from that moment on, I thought, if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, everything's going to line up to have it happen.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I learned early on.
Yeah. I bet. Yeah, I bet as a director that'd be hard. I'm going to talk to you a lot about directing because I'm fascinating with director. I'm fascinated by them just because there's so much going on that you've got to deal with. It takes a certain personality, I feel like, to be a director. You're having to deal with all kinds of different personalities yourself.
Yes.
And
all of my personalities.
That's where I need that drum roll out now.
You do.
I know. I'm gonna hook that up.
Sound effect
I know.
machine?
I'm gonna hook up the sound effect machine. I've got it with me. I just forgot to hook it up. But yeah, I would think, how long have you been directing now?
Really just since then.
Okay, so that's almost 20 years, right? Yeah. So kudos to you because that's a long time.
Yeah.
And the Laramie Project, how did that end up being? Was it great?
Great. It was an amazing show.
That's
and then
an amazing
we revived
story.
that show in 2007.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that play.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to come see it. I did not catch that one with you, but I would love to see that.
I don't know
one.
when we'll do it again, but yeah, I love that show. That and the second show we did was Bent. Do you know Bent?
Yes, I've heard
Takes
of
place
Bent.
in the Holocaust, and not many people know that lots of LGBTQ people died in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
About a work camp, and it is actually my favorite theater piece.
I will definitely check that out.
Yeah.
Are you going to ever revive that one? Or?
Oh, probably, because it is one of my favorites. Yeah.
I would think that would be fun as a director. Do you get to, what's the process of picking musicals or pieces that you want to do in theater?
Well, I'm always reading and always listening to what's going on in New York and on the West End in London. And our audience brings us titles occasionally, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm also reading new stuff. Occasionally I find something new, whether it's local or playwright, elsewhere. There's lots of stuff going on. And particularly in the last several years, there's a ton of stuff on LGBTQ themes that's been written.
Oh, yeah. We're out and about more seen now than ever.
There are several on my list for the future that I'm kind of waiting for the rights to become available to.
Yeah. And I don't know much about the process for the rights and stuff. So there is a process after, say, the playwright puts it out and they do the original show. Then do they have to apply for something to be able to get rights so that other theaters around the country can pick it up and do it at that point?
No, I think once it's had a life in New York, it's pretty well guaranteed to have a life elsewhere.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much to get it published at that point.
Right.
Yeah, and we just apply for the rights, but it takes a while.
Yeah.
We just got Fun Home for this coming year.
Okay.
And that was one of the hardest gets that I've ever applied for. I started applying for it 3 or 4 years ago.
Wow.
And it just kept putting me off. It was available, but it was restricted.
Yeah.
And it was because one of the larger theaters in the community had a hold on it. That sometimes happens too.
Yeah.
We don't always get them firsthand.
Well, is that because you don't want multiple theater companies doing it at the exact same time? Because it would pull from your crowd, I would think.
Yeah. And, the Broadway series sometimes will pick things up long before we are able to get them.
Yeah.
But in this case, they didn't pick it up, and that theater released it finally. So
wow. Well,
we got it this
congrats
year.
to you. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was tenacious about it.
I bet. On this show, it's only been running 5 weeks now, but on this show, I've had about 4 Broadway theater cats, and one of them had won the Grammy for Kentucky in Louisville.
Wow.
His name was Garrett Sorensen, and he runs LouisvilleVoiceLessons.com with his wife, and they are opera theater grads from New York and have been in and out of Louisville. Anyway, they love it here. He went out to Santa Fe, New Mexico a couple years ago while I happened to be out in New Mexico and did the re-evolution of Steve Jobs, where his son played Steve Jobs, a silent character when he was a kid, and then Garrett played the Woz. And he was telling me that the musical was unlike anything he had ever done because they made an original recording of an opera soundtrack, and that's what won him the Grammy this year.
Wow.
But he said that the orchestra conductor was really big into like modern electronic music. So he had turntables and and vinyl and all kinds of
cool.
stuff around him while he was conducting. And then they would do all these like 808 bass drops and things that you hear in like in hip hop and dubstep and all these modern. Anyway, it's very very futuristic thinking.
Yeah.
As of course Steve Jobs kind of is known for. He invented the iPhone, right? I mean, and everything else. But anyway, we had him. We had LaVon Fisher Wilson, who was on the Color Purple with Fantasia up in New York, and she's up there right now on Broadway doing something.
Wow.
But she was also in Newsies and a couple of other ones. We've had several really cool people, and I was just telling you
They
that
sat right here where I'm sitting.
they sat right there.
Oh my
There was a
gosh.
Grammy in the studio. I touched it. I literally just played with it the whole time. I said, "Can I just just play with your Grammy?" It's actually a lot heavier than you think, and it actually was. It looks smaller than what you think, but I've got pictures of the Grammy up in LRS. But yeah, we've got Shannon Connolly coming on here in a couple weeks, and I was just telling you that she was on Broadway for Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which is one of the only shows I haven't done that I want to do, because I'm a huge
You
fan
couldn't
of
play
that
it
one.
for us, could you?
No,
Something
I can't
happened.
remember.
What
I
was
think
that?
I was out of the. When was that?
May.
I did get asked.
2016. Yeah, we did ask you.
2016. It seems like I can't remember what was going on, but I think I was out on tour with my Beverly McClellan at that point, and I was out and
We're gonna get
about.
you in our pit eventually.
I want in your pit.
got
The only
to.
thing I've ever done for Pandora was a fundraiser. Remember?
It was a Christmas show, yeah.
Yeah, it was a Christmas show, but that was really cool because you had all these actors on from different shows and
Yep.
different parts of their plays and stuff, and I really enjoyed that.
You and Austin.
Yeah, John Austin Clark is my man.
know
I
he
love
is.
that guy.
He's a musical director for us for La Cage this year.
Is he?
Uh-huh.
Cool. He's going to be in here next Monday, I
Maybe
believe.
he'll talk you into playing in the pit. for
Maybe. We'll see. It's funny because all these musical directors around here, I've worked with a lot of them, and I love every single one of them. But they always kind of put me on a back burner because they don't know whether I'm in town or not,
Right.
or they think I'm always busy. So they're always like, I would have asked you, but I figured you were busy or
Right.
you're out of town. And then I'm like, actually,
You're
I'm
sitting
free.
at home drinking.
I know. I'm sitting at home drinking
Having
my
a cocktail.
coffee. Yeah. I quit drinking.
Oh,
so.
so not a cocktail, but
right.
maybe a
I'll
nice
have
coffee.
my iced coffee. Yeah, exactly. Or tea. I love me some sweet tea.
Ooh.
Yeah.
True
but
Southern
anyway,
girl.
yeah. So I'll be in your pit at some
All
point.
right,
But
you
I
better.
definitely, I've got a list of top fives that I really want to do, and Hedwig is right at the top because it's the only audition I ever lost, in which I lost it at Actors Theater to
Well, if
Jeff
you're gonna lose it to
McAllister.
somebody.
Well, and he's the drummer of the Monarchs, and he toured with Hank Jr. and Leonard Skinner. And I was like, it's cool, man.
It's all right.
He's a great drummer. Actually, he's been in on the show as well, and he didn't know that. I said, "You're the only guy I ever lost an audition to," and that was for Hedwig and the Angry Inch. And he talked. Everybody loves that show.
It's such a fun show to play.
It is.
Watch.
I remember when I was a kid. It's weird to even remember this, but I don't have very many memories of my super young childhood. But this is one of them. We would walk into. It wasn't Blockbuster back then, but it was a VHS where you could go rent VHS tapes when we still had VHS tapes.
What are they?
Right. And I would look up and I would stare at that cover for Hedwig because it was the guy dressed like a beautiful
Yeah.
blonde
John
femme.
Cameron Mitchell.
Right. Well, the logo of Hedwig, I don't know how they got away with this, is the logo of Ludwig drums, too,
Yes.
which is what I play because the L and the G connect at the
Right.
bottom.
Yeah.
Well, I would always be like, I was already playing drums back then. So I was like, that looks like the Ludwig drum logo that and then I was fascinated by.
I'm sure they paid a fortune
I've always
to be
been
able to do that.
fascinated by a guy in a dress. I don't know what it is, but it's just my
endlessly
sweet
fascinating.
spot. Right. It is.
It
I'm like, I
is.
want to talk to that person,
It
you know?
is, yes.
Like, wow, Well, and I've always had gender confusion myself, so I think it just goes hand in
Who
hand.
amongst us has not?
Yeah, exactly. And I love the show. We can talk about
We
it.
can.
Yes,
Yeah, I
we
do
can.
love that show.
Yeah. So back to Pandora. You've been there
Yes.
20-something years.
Yes.
Do you do anything other than direct theater around town? Any?
Occasionally I act.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Ooh. Well, I would.
She's fascinating.
I know I am. Especially if you're going to wear a dress. In a show.
am.
Are you? Which show
Yes.
are you doing in the dress?
I'm doing The Mystery of Irma Vep.
Okay.
For do you know Jason Cooper?
I love Jason Cooper.
Well, it's his
I-
new theater company. It's the inaugural
Coop-
production of
the
his
Coop Theater.
the Chicken Coop Theater.
The
yeah.
Chicken Coop Theater. We had him in week one.
Mhm.
I'm still mad at myself because I couldn't archive
Did
the
he talk
shows.
about Irma
then.
Vep?
He did. He
Well, I'm
talk-
going to be in it.
Okay,
With Jack
well, I'm
Wallen.
coming.
Did
I'm
you see
coming
our
to see
production
this.
of Cabaret?
No, I didn't. I
Our
was
MC,
again. I
I'm
had
doing it with him.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
After I leave here, remind me because I'm coming to see you in a dress.
You better.
I will, because I mean, I do love that.
Yes.
Tim
so I
Curry,
play,
you know.
The two actors play. Gosh, I don't know how many characters, but one of my characters, Lady Enid.
I love that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She'll be
I love
flowy and pretty, I'm sure.
I love a play where like one person plays multiple different characters.
I do too.
Yeah. I would think that would be incredibly hard as an actor.
Sometimes, yeah. I've been studying my lines, and the characters are quite different. So I play Nicodemus, who's Yorkshire kind of, low class guy who's a handyman, and then Lady Enid, who's high class British. And,
so two completely different,
very
like
different.
Juxtapositions, complete opposites.
And they change like within a line.
Oh wow,
yeah,
it's like a Jekyll and a Hyde.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's all about the costume changes.
Yeah. Do you have like a top 5 favorite musicals of all time? And I like talk musicals. Obviously, there's a lot more in theater than just the musicals.
But we do a lot of musicals.
Yeah, I've noticed
for
that.
a company our size, we do a lot of musicals.
Yeah.
Which are really quite expensive to put together.
And if our listeners are not familiar, Pandora Productions, you broadcast out of the Henry Clay Building,
That's
don't you?
right.
All your shows. It's a beautiful space.
And by way of introduction, we do our mission is to educate and enlighten on LGBTQ themes.
I love that.
And that's what we do exclusively.
Yay! We love that.
We're the only theater in Kentucky exclusively dedicated to that.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, kudos to you all.
Yeah.
That's history right there.
Right
yeah,
there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congrats on that, because I think that is so important today. You know, I'm obviously been out a long time, and I walk around, I teach kids, and I see even like the Louisville Youth Group, which I love, that little foundation.
Awesome
that's where, if you're, I don't know what their mission statement is, but basically, kids in a certain age that feel like they are out and not accepted, or they have had issues, it's a place for them to go, and kind of it's a youth group, like mentoring group that does all kinds of great things for the community. But
they're awesome.
Yeah, I'm always I'm a big fan of that, because I did not have that growing up.
Yeah,
you know,
neither did
that
I.
kind of support system. So,
But I'm of an age, so
yeah, exactly.
When I was coming up, yeah.
So were you born in Louisville, or are you
I
a
was actually
transplant?
born in Shelbyville.
Shelbyville,
Yeah, just
okay.
east of here.
So even smaller. Yeah.
Yes, even smaller.
Yeah, I'm a Dare County, so I can totally relate.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's like 3,600 people coming up.
There were 600 people in Simpsonville, where I grew up when I was growing up.
Yeah. And how was that? I mean, how old were you when you ended up coming out?
I was in college by the time I came out.
Okay.
Yeah. We just didn't do it in high school in those days.
Yeah.
And I was born in 62.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Oh, gosh, I've
right
aged
out of high
myself
school.
right now.
I was right out of high school. But for some reason,
you're-
I still didn't care. I've always had that kind of like rock and roll,
Yeah.
I don't give a damn about my bad reputation kind of
Right.
Joan Jetty thing
Right.
going. And when I finally did it, I was just like, you know what? I don't care what anybody thinks.
Right.
And I never have,
I haven't since, but
Yeah.
it took a while, yeah.
Yeah. How was, and then when did you kind of come on into Louisville? Or you're not still in Shelby County?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. No, my husband and I live over in New Albany now.
Okay, cool.
But I've been working in Louisville for many, many years.
Yeah, for many years. Because I love Louisville.
But I've lived all over the place. I lived in Chicago for a while. I lived in Florida for a while.
Cool.
I was trying to make a living as an actor for many years.
Wow.
So I was traveling all over the Southeast and Midwest
Yeah.
doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That got really tiresome.
I bet.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that, because that's fascinating to me. You're trying to make it as an actor full time financially, right? Did you have a partner at the time?
I did not.
Yeah,
No,
it's
that
hard
would have
to-
been very
it's-
hard.
I've thought I only know from being a musician. First off, that's a double whammy to try to get somebody awesome when you're a musician,
Yes.
because they have to understand a completely different lifestyle than what a 9-to-5er would lead.
Yes.
And if you're a 9-to-5er, you don't at all understand the drive or the ambition or whatever else goes along with being a musician and coming home late at night and being surrounded by tons of people all the time who are trying to give you things, like liquor and just, it just goes with the,
Right.
with the thing. Hence, I don't play a lot of bars or anything like that anymore. I try my best not to, at least. I like more of events and
Yeah.
theater and kid-friendly things. And so anyway, but I would think being an actor, trying to be on the road, trying to make it, as full-time
It's
would
so
be
difficult.
incredibly hard. Yeah.
No matter how talented you are, I know incredibly talented people who are really, really struggling in that life. I just didn't want to struggle like that anymore.
Yeah.
So that's really what prompted me to sort of settle down and have a conversation with Bo in the first place, was like, I'm just really tired of traveling and trying to make a living as an actor.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to form a company maybe and be an artistic director.
I love that.
And he was like, well, what about Pandora Productions? I was like, but that's your company. He's like, I don't think I really want to produce anymore. I was like, well, are you selling it? I'll be interested in buying. And he was like, Michael, it's a box of props, a costume or two, and a mailing list. You can have it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Seriously.
Yeah, it literally was a Pandora's box. I love that.
It clearly was.
Yeah. So, okay. And so I want to go back to the whole, like, that's fascinating to me about you traveling all over. Yeah. What was what was the coolest one that you were involved in? Was this Equity Theater, by the way?
No.
No?
No. Trying to make it non-equity, it's even harder.
I was going to say, that would be even harder, I would think. Yeah. Because I've never, ever had an experience quite like Equity Theater. I've only done 2 or 3 shows in Equity Theater, but they were all so amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was non-equity touring around and stuff.
Yeah. I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a whole, a whole circuit.
Wow.
Derby Dinner is non-equity.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
and so it's that kind of theater company that's casting out there.
Yeah.
And,
have you ever done any work with Derby Dinner?
Yeah, I worked there for 20 years off and
I
on.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
I've done a lot over there.
I love Derby Dinner. It always fascinates me that the orchestra is up in the ceiling. Yeah, how does that work? Because obviously the actors can't see them, right?
They can't. No, they're all mic'd.
They're all mic'd, and you can only just hear them.
into the stage so they can hear them. Yeah.
That is fascinating to me. And a lot of those musicians I hear have been there for so many years.
Time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you're in, you're like in. But somebody else was in here telling me that they had to do like an 80. I think it was Alonzo Richmond was talking about he had 80 shows at.
Yeah.
I'm like,
the Christmas
that
shows
is a
are
lot.
really long runs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
very
once
long.
did 170 shows in 9 months, and that about killed me.
Yeah.
And that was out across the United States and Canada.
I did Stephen Foster, and I think the first year I was there, I did 96 performances.
Wow.
And it is hot as blazes down there on that stage.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about in Bardstown, Kentucky?
Yeah, Stephen Foster's
Yeah,
store,
that's close to where I'm from. Yeah, I'm about another hour south past Bardstown. But, yeah, it is hot. It's hot down there in the
wonder
valleys.
You like your sweet tea.
I know. I'm straight up country. I call it Kentucky Simple Redneck. I'm kind of, I don't know. Just
Me too.
I was born and bred a strange character, you know what I mean? And I kind of love it. So, Michael, what have we got coming up with Pandora since we're talking all things Pandora today?
Pandora. Well, we just started rehearsal for our first production of the 1920 season, which is Torch Song, which is the revised version of Torch Song Trilogy, which you may know was and is still one of the iconic gay pieces in theater. Yeah. Written by Harvey Fierstein, who people would know as the brother in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a great movie.
And the mother in Hairspray on Broadway. Yeah, very talented man and very talented playwright. He also wrote the book for La Cage aux Folles, which we have coming up later in the season.
That is fascinating, too. Yeah, I'm a big fan of all that. And I do love that you guys are exclusive. I did not know that until today. That's why I love the show.
We're the only one.
I get to find out things that I had no idea about.
What else are you going to find out today? I mean, I'm going to be here for another hour and a half.
Well, I'm not for sure. I know. And we're going to spin some music in between.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, and I thought it's only right since we were just talking about Mrs. Doubtfire. It's Aerosmith, but dude looks like a lady. I'm joined by Pandora's Michael Drury. Stay tuned. We have a call-in coming in from Dawn Richardson, female drummer extraordinaire in San Francisco. You're locked on to Jyneration Nation, LRS102.com. It's sweet. Ballroom Blitz. You're locked on to LRS102.com, The Walrus. We are broadcasting live from the Launch Louisville studios down on East Broadway. I am joined by Michael Drury. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Good. We were just talking about the Dixie Chicks are making a comeback.
Oh, my God. I'm so excited.
Aren't you?
I love country music.
Well,
That's
me
one
too.
Of the things people don't know about me.
Yeah. Oh, that you love country music.
So, secret's out.
Okay.
No,
well, we can relate in a way. I got my start in radio in classic gold country radio. And I always credit my career in radio to Dolly Parton. And here's why. I love to tell this little story. First off, I grew up...
Dolly, I love, by the way.
Oh, me too.
Oh, my God.
I'm 1 degree away. I'm just like, come on.
She's like a drag queen.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Anybody who looked like a hooker or who looked like a man in a dress that was a little bit trashy. I like my women a little on the trashy side. I always have. I don't know why. A little rednecky, a little crazy. I tend to like a little flair and drama. I like theater. That's probably why. But yeah, so Dolly Parton, when I was a kid, we had one radio station in my hometown, which was very small, and it was classic gold country. And I was obsessed with Dolly Parton from the moment I was knee-high to a grasshopper. I don't know why. It was something about her voice and probably her look. I was very attracted to that. So I would call the radio station. I would request Dolly all the time. Now, not to mention later on, I go to high school and was in marching band with Porter Wagner's grandkids. All right. And then skip to when I'm 16. A lady I've always was a chatty Cathy. And I was talking to some lady at the school, and she said, "Do you have a job yet?" And I said, "No." And she goes, "I'm the manager of the local radio station. I love your voice. Come see me. I'm going to give you a job." And I said, "Well, I'm the kid that used to call in Dolly Parton." And she remembered it. And she loved it. And she goes, "Well, basically Porter Wagner's Porter Wagner's daughter, who grew up with Dolly, was working at the local radio station." So I ended up in a job with her. She gave me a 7 to midnight call-in radio show and didn't even put in an application. Boom. Started my radio career at 16, you know.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
Herstory, I call it. Actually,
yes.
The name of my solo record and my autobiography is called Herstory because I took a class once on how masculine our language is.
Yes.
And prior to the Hillbilly Swagger record, I did a record called Welcome to the Queendom instead of Kingdom. It's Queendom. And all throughout that record, we changed the verbiage on almost everything, the wordage. Cool. Anything that's history is now herstory. Anything that's kingdom is now queendom, you know, and I've always loved a twist on words like that.
I love it. Isn't it interesting that, the Romance languages have masculine and feminine articles?
Yes.
We don't, and yet our language is very masculine based.
It is. Yep. If you look at every word, I mean, even the word woman has man in it.
Yes.
Yeah, therefore a lot of the female feminists like to spell it WOMYN.
Yes,
right,
I've seen that.
So anyway, the Dixie Chicks are making a comeback. We love Dolly Parton.
I love them.
Classic old country. I was going to tell you some of my fave. I would just sit in a booth by myself for 5 hours and listen to nothing but that old stuff, you know, and I just have a fond place in my heart for it.
Yeah.
Although my entire life I was always the rocker, and everybody in my family were like, "You should go to Nashville and pursue music. If you're going to pursue music, you should do it in Nashville." And I was like, "Nope, going to Louisville." Rock and roll, man. I was trying to run from country.
Yeah.
And then last year on this exact date, I found myself in Franklin, Tennessee at Dark Horse Recording Studio. And you'll love this because it also ties into Dolly Parton. So I'm down there, and I had no idea. I did not Google or any of this where I was going to record tracks. I just knew that this chick who was doing an Americana country record had messaged me. She wanted me to drum on some tracks. She sent me the tracks. I really liked them. And then she was like, "Can you drive down to Franklin, Tennessee and record tracks?" And I said yes. I thought I was going to somebody's basement to record tracks. And I pull in, and it's like a multi-million-dollar recording studio on like 1,000-acre farmland, and like 20 PA assistants come out to grab my drums, and I'm like, where am I? And I walk in, the first thing I see are nothing but gold records. And so I videotaped it, and first one I saw was Taylor Swift. Then I saw Martina McBride's Wild Angels, which I was working in country radio when that dropped. Faith Hill's very first one, where she covered Janice and made her famous, Piece of My Heart. That was recorded there. Reba McEntire had recorded there. Neil Diamond. I mean, the list went on. Alison Krauss and Union Station. Terry Clark. It was all these country artists. Trace Atkins. And then there was like a Michael W. Smith, the Christian artist, and there was a couple Latino artists and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, are these all the records that were recorded here? And they said, oh yeah, this studio has sold over 100 million number one hits. Wow. And I went, where am I, right? And I'm spending the night this night, too. I recorded my tracks. I go downstairs. They've got this really groovy little layer, and on the walls, there's all these. I remember looking up and seeing a Faith Hill gold cassette tape. And I took a picture of it because I thought, that's interesting. She hit gold with a cassette tape, not a CD, right? It was prior to CDs. Yeah. Several months later, I'm back to record my second time with the tracks, and I'm down there staying in the same space, and it's dark, and I turn the lights on, walking down the hallway by myself, and I look up, and where the Faith Hill cassette tapes were nothing but Dolly Parton gold records all the way down the hallway.
Did you think you were dreaming?
Well, I did, and I took video of it. And then I go in my room, and they have this thing framed on the wall that's her handwritten lyrics with her handwritten chord charts to these songs called Traveling Soldier and all this stuff she had done. And I go back upstairs to the producer, and I said, hey, when I was down there before, it was Faith Hill records, or cassette tapes, but now it's Dolly Parton records. And they're like, oh yeah, this is Dolly's personal recording studio. Her producer, Ken Parks, has the entire basement rented out for the next like 4 months because they're working on something. And I went, are you kidding me? And they're like, no, Dolly sleeps in that same place sometimes, you know. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah. So last year on this exact date today that I'm meeting you, that's what I was doing.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that wild?
Oh my gosh.
You know,
What an anniversary.
Yeah. And I've met her only twice.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to like talk to her. She waved at me, but this is funny. It was Halloween that night. And I was dressed like Gomez Adams from the Adams Family with the full mustache and the hair and the whole nine. And my date was Morticia. And we come out of the Dolly concert and we're trying to get out early so that we can get all the way back to Louisville to this party we were going to. And security stops us and they're like, sorry, you've got to stay right here. And out she walks. They walk her and she did a double take at me. Like she looked and then she looked back real quick and she waves at me, and of course I turn around and I'm like, who is she waving at? There's nobody behind me. So I'm like, I was waved at by Dolly. You know, we love her. You know,
Yes.
You can't not love Dolly. There's
What's
nothing.
not to love?
Yes, and like yesterday she was with Brandy Carlisle
Yeah, I
on
saw
stage at that folk festival doing I Will Always Love You.
Amazing.
Yeah, and she's now come out and, you know, she's been supportive of LGBTQ
Yeah.
rights her
She knows
whole
who
life.
loves her.
Huh?
She knows who loves her.
Yes. And I still question her and that other girl's relationship.
I don't know.
Just a little bit. Did you see that Whitney Houston's, the biopic's coming out on her, or the book is coming out about her?
No, I didn't.
Well, it's been rumored.
Uh-oh.
It's been rumored, allegedly. You know, I love that word.
Alleged.
Allegedly, Whitney had a girlfriend for many years, and that the girlfriend was not accepted by the family. And Sissy, as well as Bobby Brown, are both quoted as saying, if she had been accepted in Whitney's life, then they believe Whitney would still be alive today because they credit a lot of her drug use and going down because of the breakup of those two behind the scenes. But
Wow.
nobody wanted it out front. So many people in the LGBT community were like, oh, yeah, we saw him out at clubs all the time, you know, and all this stuff have come out and said that. So now they've got the book coming out on it.
Ooh, I bet it'll be a scandal.
I can't wait to read it. I know even Wendy Williams is like, oh,
Alleged.
you guys. Yeah, allegedly.
Alleged.
Yeah. Anyway, it is coming out, though. There is one. I read that. And then, of course, our beloved Dixie Chicks.
Oh my gosh, the Dixie Chicks.
It's
I'm
about
so
time.
glad they're coming back.
Me too.
What's taking so long?
Well, you know, I don't know. Here's the funny thing. I always
they
seem
had
to,
all the Obama years.
I know.
They could've come out, yeah.
Well, of course, it probably wouldn't have sold during that.
Probably
you know,
not,
yeah,
yeah.
controversy sells a little bit more.
Yeah, that's true.
But what I was going to say is, for some reason, I've intertwined with the Dixie Chicks throughout radio. Every time I'm back in radio, then the Dixie Chicks
back.
release a record. Right. I was working in radio when the first Big To Do went down. In fact, I was working in radio when their first record dropped, and I loved them.
Yeah, I did too.
Then their second record dropped, the Wide Open Spaces one, and I was playing that nonstop. And then I was working in radio when, you know, we were told not to play their stuff, obviously, because they're not country, and everybody banned them and ran over their CDs. Well, I was playing them about 3 times an hour just because. Again, there's my rebel spirit. I was not going to let anybody tell me I couldn't play some Dixie Chicks on my program.
Yeah.
And
Good for
then,
you.
then I did a stint in TV. And then when I got back into radio is when they dropped Not Ready to Make Nice, right? Their comeback to all of that, which I loved and thought was awesome. But it was funny because it was a rock and roll station and we were playing them then because they kind of had to find other stations
they had to find a new
outside
home.
of country, right? Which always baffled me because as a musician who come from a country background, they were some of the best players at their
Yes.
instruments. I mean, and Natalie Maines' voice is amazing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and she was a rocker. She was a punk rocker, kind of. If you read her story, she went on to do her own solo record, which was definitely more rock and roll all the way through. But I thought it was cool that they teamed up with Rick Rubin, you know, on that last record, and I'm so curious to hear the new one.
Me
And
too.
I hope they are a little political
And when
because
is it
that's
gonna
kind of
drop?
what they're doing.
Yeah, I hope so too.
They just announced that it's going to be out later this year.
Great.
So at some point this year, we're going to get some new Dixie Chicks, which is awesome.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, but as far as like players, pickers, I mean, even Natalie Maines' dad is known as one of the best steel guitar players in the country
Wow.
from Lubbock, Texas. So why country
I
music
don't know all
band
that.
them?
I just appreciate their music
Yeah.
so much. I'm glad you know it. I'm glad to
Oh
to
yeah,
hear you tell
I'm
me
a
about it.
huge Natalie Maines geek. In fact, when I first moved here, it was weird. I was 21 years old, and everybody told me. Of course, I was much skinnier then. I had super short hair. And I had a very similar hairstyle to Natalie Maines, but everybody was like, "You remind me of Natalie
do kinda
Maines
remind me
for
of
some
Natalie
reason."
Maines, yeah.
I get that a
Even
lot.
without hair or anything.
Even without hair?
Yeah, I think.
Oh Lord,
No,
I
she's
would
got
hate to
hair,
see
sorry.
myself without hair. My hair is my security blanket.
I used to feel that way about my mustache and my goatee.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now you don't
Yeah, I
have
wouldn't
one.
be caught without one. No.
I would love to have a mustache. I mean, I'm a gender bender all the way around.
I know
I would
you
love to
are.
walk around with. I've always loved to wear ties and masculine things, and I always wanted a mustache. I don't know why. Maybe a Fu Manchu with a little like what they call those, the little patch under your
soul patch.
Soul patch. Yeah, I love the soul patch.
You need one of those.
I do,
you
don't
totally
I?
do.
You need to find me a role I can try to like a silent speaking role.
Me. Are you kidding? Listen, everybody heard it.
Yeah, I was gonna say
millions of fans just heard it.
right. I was gonna say I've never, maybe once in high school was I in a play, maybe middle school, and I played some kind of old granny with like some knee highs rolled up, and that was fun. But other than that, I don't know why I've never ventured into the theater world outside of just playing in a pit orchestra.
Playing it, that's fine.
Yeah, I do. Although some of them not so much. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Like, I love Les Mis, but I don't think I'll ever play it again.
Yeah.
It's just too long. Yeah. I really appreciate it for the historic fact and the revolving stage and, the way that they piece the music together is just brilliant all throughout that. I love a lot of the scenes.
But it's not an exciting drum book, though,
No. It's not like Jesus Christ Superstar,
right.
By the way, which is on my list. I want to do that one.
Doesn't fit my mission, but I love that show.
Yeah, I know it's a great show. I just did Godspell, which I loved.
That show.
Yeah, Godspell. Oh, the music was awesome.
Love that show,
I did it for Alonzo and Redline Productions down at the All Louisville Worship Assembly or whatever it is. Yeah, he let me just go to town. He put me behind a plexi and just let me wail on that, and I was like, thank you, because this is just too fun. And I studied so hard for that Alas for You. I don't know if you know anything about that.
I love that.
Oh my goodness. The time signatures on that, I mean, literally just jump every measure. So it starts out with like 6/8, 5/8, and then it does like 2 bars of 6/4, and then a bar of 4/4, and then it'll go to like a 7/4, and then there's all kinds of little sprinkled in 6/8, 5/8 bars throughout it. I studied that so hard because I was so worried about playing that piece because it is so crazy for a drummer. And then that was the easiest piece that ended up like that was the one that ended up the best.
You worked on it so hard,
Yeah, and then it'd be some little piece with regular 044 that'd throw
throwing
me for a loop. Yay, I love that. Yay. We got to have some theater up in it. Yeah. Michael just knocked over his microphone. That was funny.
I was being dramatic, trying to demonstrate you throwing your sticks all over the place.
I know, yeah. So, yes, I kind of, if I... Actually, usually if I do throw the sticks, it's because I'm not comfortable behind the kit. Anytime a drummer has to play somebody else's kit.
Oh, I'll bet.
Yeah. And I don't know how you would compare that to an actor, but if you've ever played a musical instrument, if you're used to playing your own and then you have to play somebody else's, it's totally different. Yeah. Same with driving a car, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about, I want to know, I've got all kinds of cool questions for you.
You want me to talk with my hands again?
Yeah, please do. I wish we need a live streaming cam from LRS102.com. We really do.
What I was going to say is, no, I don't know. I'm glad we're on the radio.
I know,
You've discovered my hidden talent because I have a face for radio.
Oh, yeah? Yes. That's funny. Oh, man. You are a funny dude, I swear. This is my first time actually really getting to hang with you.
We really never chatted before.
I know.
It's fun.
And I was telling him when he came in, I don't even like to prepare these interviews because I like to just roll with the flow and see what happens. It's always the best material anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're being real. You're being honest. You're being raw about everything. So let's see. Let's go with this question. What's a show that you haven't done yet at Pandora that you really want to do, directing wise?
Yeah. I've pretty much done everything I want to do that's available so
far.
I
love that.
I've got some things that I have my eye on that I can't wait for them to come out.
Okay.
Now, I will say that there are some shows that I really want to do that are really beyond us,
okay.
I think.
What do you mean
size-wise?
by that? Just, it's too
Priscilla,
big of a
Queen of the
production?
Desert is a big new musical.
Okay.
It's so many costumes and so many sets. We just don't have the wherewithal for all that yet. But maybe we could collaborate with somebody on that
I was going to say,
project.
maybe...
Hint.
Who are you looking at?
Oh, I don't know. But I would love to do that show. Kinky Boots, I would love to do that. But that's really so expensive for costumes. You have to buy all those boots.
So when you're looking at a musical to bring to Pandora, you have to take all this into consideration. You have to take in the outfits, how many scene changes, how many actors, how big is the musical production, I would assume.
Yes. Yep.
Because I've seen... Go ahead.
We're doing La Cage aux Folles this year. That's a huge undertaking for us. It's quite ambitious. There's a lot of costumes.
I bet.
Yeah, a lot of sets.
Are the costumes generally the biggest part of like whether you can do it or not, or is it more cast size?
Sometimes it's the cast size. Not usually the cast size, but costumes sometimes are a consideration. How many and how elaborate sets.
Yeah.
Sometimes that limits us. just because the space that we're in is small. For those people who don't know the Henry Clay, it's about a 28-foot deep stage, about 32 feet wide. So
It's a beautiful
that's
space.
the limit of it, and it doesn't have fly space. So whatever comes in has to come in from the wings.
The
and
sides.
The wings
okay,
are limited.
I see.
So,
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
And
Well,
it only seats 140 people, so it's not like a big proscenium.
I kind of like the small theaters, though.
Yeah, I love
honestly,
it. Yeah.
I like a small theater, and when I was playing a lot of bars and stuff, I kind of prefer a smaller bar too. Sometimes it's just more of an intimate setting, and it's more of an intimate show. I feel like sometimes.
Yeah. In fact, when we did Hedwig, people were like, "Oh my God, I've seen Hedwig really for the first time in many ways because it was so intimate and close."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you let the band like really rock out on
Oh my
that?
gosh, they did.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
That's always one thing that I find annoying as a set player. When you got a show like a Rent or a Hedwig or something where it's like real rock and roll, if the sound of the group isn't there, because when I went to see like Rent on Broadway, the band right on the stage, right in your face, loud rock and roll, And so I feel like anybody who loves that musical, that's what they really want
That's
to
what
hear.
they want, yeah.
So if you can't achieve that sound-wise, it's really hard. But of course, when you're in these small theaters, the drummer usually can't wail like that unless they're behind a plexiglass. You have to tone down the band so that you can hear the message of the actors and all
I
the
will say
things.
we are challenged with that. I mean, that's a small space, so it's a delicate balance for sure.
I bet, yeah.
And if there's the time they get to let go, really, is when it's a musical break and
Right.
there's no vocal underneath
I
it.
could definitely see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, congrats to you on the whole Pandora thing. I mean, it
Thanks.
feels like to me, from an outsider looking in, that Pandora has just grown and grown and grown.
We have grown like crazy.
Everybody I know goes to shows there. You know what I mean? So it seems like you guys are doing very well.
We are. Yeah.
Yeah. And every season just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And somehow we're still standing afterwards. How are we possible?
That is awesome. Well, I'm still standing. We need to throw that one on too.
That's right.
I love me some Elton John. What did you think of the new Elton John movie? Did you see it?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, I haven't seen it either.
Oh my gosh,
I'm
let's
telling
go.
on myself. Yeah. What do you think about? We had a girl on here who is playing in the pit orchestra of Broadway's new Jagged Little Pill. Have you seen?
No, I don't. I've not even heard about that.
Oh yeah.
What's it about?
It's about to. Here's
Do
what she
tell.
said. She's in the pit orchestra for it. She's the lead guitarist for him. She also is the lead guitarist of Cyndi Lauper. I was lucky enough to play with her in Michigan, so we became
Speaking
friends.
of kinky
and
boots.
yeah, speaking of kinky boots, yes. So she called in and I asked her what she's doing on the side, and she says, "Actually, I'm currently on Broadway, getting ready to premiere Jagged Little Pill." And I said, "Well, tell me more about it." It's the Alanis Morissette Jagged Little Pill theater piece that's written around her album that dropped in the 90s that was so famous. She said Diablo Cody had written the script. Did she write Juno? There's a couple of famous movies that she's written anyway. And that's all she could really say about it. And I asked her if she'd gotten to meet Alanis Morissette, and she said not yet, but evidently Alanis just had a baby. And, a lot of times when these artists have babies, they're not out touring. So they're
Right,
like, what can I do? Well, if I'm in New York, let's write a theater piece on my record, And that's what she's done. So,
wow.
But not only that one, she's also in the Dangerous one, which is the one on Michael Jackson's life.
Oh, okay.
Which I didn't know.
And both of those have opened?
Not yet.
Not yet. They're both in production.
about ready to open. Yeah. So
Well,
anyway,
she's going to be very busy.
Yeah.
She's playing both of those shows.
she was. Yeah, I was like back to back. I don't think back to back because she's I think for the past 4 years been touring with Cyndi Lauper. Her name is Alex Nolan. She's one of the most brilliant female lead guitar players I've ever gotten to work with. Yeah, which I've gotten to work with a lot.
I'm sure you have.
Of awesome female lead guitar players. We also had a girl named Janet Robin on the show. She was in Girlfriend in L.A.
Oh,
I met her out there. She's toured with Lindsey Buckingham. She toured with Air Supply. Her list was crazy. She was the only female student to study under Randy Rhoads, who was on tour with Ozzy Osbourne and wrote Crazy Train and most of all Ozzy's hits. So anyway,
You've just rubbed elbows with just.
I really have. From LA to New York.
people.
I love New York. I love LA. I love the theater scene. And it does seem like
LA.
a lot. Yeah, I love that song too. What was his name? Randy
Newman?
Randy Newman. That's right. Randy Newman. I love LA. But yeah, it just seems like there is somehow I've managed to get in the crossover of not only the music music scene, but that music scene that has also crossed into theater somehow. And I really do love theater. You know, I really do. I love the message it portrays. I also love that you've got a group of people working toward one main goal in theater.
Yeah.
And
it
that's
is a very collaborative art.
And that's to make it successful. In one show, you can meet hundreds of people that you never met before.
Right.
You know, and by the time you're done, and I'm always sad when they're always rapping because, you know, you get attached to, and I would think as an actor, you could speak on this more than anybody. You get attached to some of these roles.
Yeah.
You know, and they have a close place in your heart.
Absolutely.
And then when you have to say goodbye to them and then they go away, it's very sad.
Like I said, I don't act very often, but I did. We did A Man of No Importance in 2011, and I played the lead in that show. I don't get on our stage very often, but boy, I miss him. I can't even listen to the soundtrack without getting emotional because I really miss him.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I have a few little soft spots in my heart.
But honestly, one of the reasons I love doing what I do, I mean, yes, you do develop relationships with everybody who's involved in a show, but I get bored easily.
Yeah,
so
me too.
For me, it's a finite 8-10 weeks where I'm doing something and then it's done. And that piece is done and I move on to the next thing. So it's always different.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's like
about
me,
my job.
I can only compare it to like putting out records. I keep putting out records with different projects and different collaborations and now doing my own solo thing just because I get bored.
And whatever you're working on is probably your favorite thing. That's the way
at the time.
Yeah,
at the time. And then once I let it out.
What I'm working on
well,
now.
I use mine for therapy. I'm not going to lie. I use mine to say things in my music that maybe I wouldn't say on a normal daily basis.
Yeah.
I use it to purge emotion, obviously.
I've been known to purge emotion on stage too. Yeah.
And I think that's any great artist.
I think so
you know
too,
what I mean? Yeah, any great artist has to put themselves in it and then purge it out. Once it's out, it's out, and then boom, you leave it. And you know, you try not to go back and listen again, but sometimes you might.
Theoretically, we should be the most mentally healthy people in the world because we're always purging.
I agree, but we're usually.
I don't think we are.
I think we're the complete opposite.
So
yeah. We're always like the emotionally distraught ones. I feel like, yeah. But I feel like I was having this conversation the other day too about the solo record. I'm like, you know, I feel like artists have to go through what they go through because a true artist writes what is going on in their life and puts it in their art somehow, or what they see, and it is supposed to, you know, disturb the comforted and comfort the disturbed.
I hope
you know
so.
what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think, you know, if anybody can just listen to something and take something out of it, whether, you know, it's from mine or somebody else's stuff. I think a true artist just does that. But I do feel like we have to go through heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak sometimes in order to have the emotion to purge it out and write about it.
Well, and we feel things deeply. So
yes,
I
very
think artists
deeply.
Do,
Correct, yeah. Well, Michael, I want you to hang around. We got you for a whole nother hour. And we're about to talk with Dawn Richardson, a female drummer who is with Four Non Blondes for many years. She does all kinds of cool things. I think she even does some theater as well. She's out in San Francisco. She's going to be calling in here in a little bit. I want to remind our listeners that Thursday, August 1st, LRS 102 will be broadcasting live from the Kentucky Fair and Expo Center, and that's for the annual Street Rod Nationals. It starts at 6 a.m. Skinny J's New Rock Morning Show will be there, and they're going to continue there with Midday McGill, also my Jyneration Nation, and also after me, the Hippie Hothead Spotlight. We're all going to be broadcasting live from down there. Come check out the cool custom cars. Stop by the LRS102.com booth and tell them I am the Walrus, and you'll get free LRS Fest tickets while they last. Isn't that cool?
That's very cool.
Yeah. Do you remember when LRS went off the air and they just spun I Am the Walrus for like 2 days? Or actually, they were coming back on the air. It was such a really cool, great marketing idea. They were always it's smart stuff going on. Stay tuned. You're on Jyneration Nation. And I am Jen Yates. We'll be back with Michael Drury here at some Fleetwood Mac with Tusk on LRS102.com. It's Four Non Blondes and Misty Mountain Hop. Dawn Richardson's awesome. And did you hear that big roll?
Yeah, that's amazing.
I know. I was like, dang. She is, or has been, one of my major influences since I was really young. You know, when they came out, it was the 90s. I was already pretty much out, you know, and having a good old time. But, man, when they dropped that record, it just was like, it was over. Everybody, you know, it was the angsty female rock and roll time period in that 90s. Yeah. And then here comes Linda Perry, you know, with combat boots and dreads and nose piercings that went down to her ear like Jane Child. Remember Jane Child? Yeah. Man, I just love them. So, Michael, we want to talk about Derby City Sister Bingo.
Yeah.
Because you were saying something about... Yeah, you were saying you're going to that?
Going, they're benefiting Pandora Productions this Sunday.
They are.
Yeah, isn't that
I
nice?
didn't know that.
Yeah.
This Sunday, what time?
Doors open at 7. I think bingo starts at 7:30.
7:30 bingo, and all proceeds go to Pandora?
I don't know if all proceeds go, but
Yeah,
some proceeds go.
But some proceeds go, right on. Well, we love our Derby City Sisters.
But it'll be fun, even if no proceeds go.
Well,
You know what I mean?
yeah, you can't go wrong with drag queens or bingo. I mean,
Right?
it sounds like right up my alley.
I don't know how we'd survive without drag queens at bingo all those years that we did, probably.
You know, I keep thinking about that. Have you ever been out to these bingo halls on the south side, the south end, or... Yeah.
Many, many moons ago.
I was going to say a lot of us don't venture out that way for a reason.
Right.
I know why. I totally get it. But if you've ever been one of those, I mean, they'll throw you out for even talking. Like these old ladies do
they're
not play with
serious.
their blotters and all that. They'll blot you.
Daubers.
Oh, whoops. What did I say? Blotters. Is that a drug or something? I don't know. I've heard that word somewhere. Anyway, blotter, whatever.
Funny.
Dopper? Wait,
Dauber.
Dauber, like
Yeah,
Dobie,
like a-
Dauber.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that, bingo people.
No, but
anyway,
they're serious about it.
yes, I have had friends kicked out of bingo for being a little too loud, which,
Yeah.
wasn't really loud. They were
I
just
suspect
talking.
that it won't be like that Sunday.
Probably not. I
Probably
would
not.
think
I bet
gay
it's gonna
drag
be
queen
real
bingo
loud.
would probably be way more fun and way more rowdy, and you're probably not going to get
can't wait.
kicked out unless
Yeah.
you're just doing something stupid. Yeah. So I love a Derby City drag queen, and I
I've
just love
heard.
drag queen all around.
They're in your video, right?
They are in my video. It's
Somewhere I
fun.
heard that.
Yeah. I put out a single called Bougie on my 40th birthday, and I kept saying, what can I do to make the world like drop their mouth? And one of my guy
would do
friends,
it.
one of my guy friends said, you ought to go super femme because you aren't super femme and you never show that side of you. And I was like, that's kind of genius. So in the video, I actually, play that character, but I also put a Derby City sister up in there because I thought it would be funny. Because
Quite a
I'm
contrast.
talking, yeah, to have and somebody asked me, what was I saying? Today they thought it was me with a mustache. I said, no, it's a Derby City drag queen. It is not me with a mustache. And then Sean Wallace from Soul Circus was up in here. He had seen the video and he did not know that the girl was me. He thought the actual femme girl was somebody else. And I said, no, that's me. And he was like, are you serious? Anyway, I just don't understand. But that's what I love about art. You take it for what it is. Yeah. So Derby City Drag Queen Bingo.
That's right.
At Play.
Sunday at 7.
Sunday at 7 o'clock. How long do those things go?
I have no idea. Probably till 9:30 or 10, I imagine.
What's the buy-in? Do you know? Isn't there like when you go? Because I'm not super familiar with bingo, but
Yeah, $5, I think.
$5 and that gets you
all your materials.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I wonder, do they do like multiple cards or just one card or like
Yikes, I don't know. Probably multiple.
Yeah, I would say.
imagine.
Yeah, I think I'm not for sure how bingo
Yeah.
works, but from what I've heard, you pay so much and you get so many cards, and you can only do so many cards. But some people literally have like 8 or 10 cards.
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
And they're whatever you call them. Say it again. Daubers. I don't want to mess that up again. They have their daubers, and then when they say like 54 or
Right.
whatever,
you
then
stand
you
up
can
and scream. You got to scream
Yeah.
real loud.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I think they're giveaways and stuff too. Pandora's donated a couple pairs of subscriber tickets for next season.
Oh,
so,
I love
yeah,
that.
So.
Well,
Even
cool.
if you don't
I'm
like
gonna-
to play bingo, it'd be a hoot to watch.
Oh yeah.
And, there's a bar.
I'm gonna. Well,
So,
right. Yeah.
you know,
You
if
can't go
if
wrong.
you're
I mean,
so
it's at
inclined.
play. It's at
Right.
play. You even have a lighting show and
Right.
probably amazing talent there.
Yes.
By the way, I got to play that stage not too long ago for the first time ever.
Uh-huh.
And that's an amazing stage to be on. Yeah. And
We've
it
done
was.
a couple of benefits there. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course I'm in the music scene, so I'm not. I've done plenty of theater, but usually I'm in a pit orchestra, hidden somewhere or whatever.
You were right up front, I bet. Right on stage.
Well, I was
It's
right
not a
up
huge
front.
stage,
No,
so,
it's really
yeah.
not because there was only 2 of us, and we took up the whole stage, but we still had the catwalk.
Yeah.
And my favorite part was I was like, hey, Micah, can I get some fog right here? And can I get like certain lighting? I love that because I love lighting and I love me some fog.
Oh, who
and
doesn't
I
love
love
fog?
lighting in fog. You know what I'm saying? It's one of my favorite
Not quite
things
like
ever.
the fog in San Francisco.
Not like the fog
With
in San
dawn.
Francisco. Right. Always running to get in your face somewhere. Always running, yes. If you haven't seen Eddie Izzard, that's who I'm quoting. You should watch Dressed to Kill because it's one of my favorite all-time comedian skits. Have you seen that one?
No, huh?
Oh.
But I love Eddie Izzard.
Well, okay, so Dressed to Kill, in my mind, is Eddie Izzard's like main piece. It's the one that really put him on the map, and he's still underground. but he's played more stadiums than the Rolling Stones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he talks about it, and I've met him twice in person, and he autographed a drumhead for me, and he told me that was the most interesting thing he had ever been asked to autograph.
Oh.
And so I laughed at him because, of course, he's a comedian. I said, yeah, I'm going to sell it on eBay. And then he goes, you're a funny kid. He was like, you might get $1. And I was like, maybe if I'm lucky. I was like messing with him back, but he was so cool. And just super down-to-earth groovy dude. He plays here quite often every now and then.
Yeah.
Now he's like running marathons and running for parliament overseas.
Really?
And yeah.
I did hear that.
Yeah, but anyway, he still does a stand-up. And Dressed to Kill came out in 1996, and he does it live in San Francisco. And his skits in there are so classic. There's some about Cake or Death. That's one of his more famous ones. That's in that same thing. But also Ellen claims that she got a lot of her comedic timing and taste and influence from him in that particular skit. So if you like her style of comedy, you'll love him because she literally takes a lot of her influence from him. Yeah. So anyway, he's my favorite all-time comedian, and he's a transvestite, and he's very open about that. And but he's an executive transvestite. He travels the world and does all these cool things, and he's just open about it. But he's married with a kid, So I feel like that's just how it goes, in the LGBT world.
It's all a spectrum.
It is all a spectrum, and you can't judge a book by its cover because you never know what you're going to get, right? My girl Bev was all about that, writing about, don't judge me for what I look like, because on the inside I might be something totally different. Of course, she was bald. I don't know if you ever saw her, but my musical soulmate that passed away in October, Beverly McClellan, she was bald. She was on The Voice season 1. She went on to tour with B.B. King and was nominated for a Grammy with Steve Vai. She won GLAAD Awards. She did most all the Pride circuits all around the country. She was just an awesome chick, super awesome chick, And we're still releasing a lot of her stuff, but she more than anybody when I met her was so out and about and just herself and real, in the LGBT market. And people, I would watch them, they would just flock to her and be like, wow, you're so inspiring because of who you are, and you're just open, and I love that about her.
Cool in her own skin.
And bringing it back to the Pandora thing, which you're affiliated with, you said that you all are the first theater, right, to solely focus on LGBTQ issues in Kentucky. First and only.
To be exclusively dedicated to that. Yeah. But I don't get a bell. Oh, I didn't cuss.
Oh, you didn't cuss. I know, yeah. If you say a cuss word, I'll give you a bell.
Damn.
Yay! More money for charity. You gotta love if you cuss for a cause. You know what I mean? Yeah. And tell me real quick, because we haven't talked about this either. How far do you go back with LRS? You said you were slightly familiar with LRS, right?
I was, yeah. As a kid, that's what I listened to.
Yeah, and saying what era?
And some other radio stations. I can't say their names, can I? I can.
Oh, yeah, you
Wacky,
can.
I listened to Wacky.
Oh, we love Wacky. I used to do news and traffic reports on Wacky. Back in the day,
yeah, that's what I listened to when I was a kid. LRS and Wacky. Yeah.
Wacky's the oldie station, man. They're still kicking. And some of our DJs here used to be DJs there. Yeah, it's all a big family. It's just like the theater community, the radio community. They all know each other and support each other no matter what station's on.
The theater community is like that too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very close knit community, I feel like.
That's one of the reasons I've stayed here in Louisville is because, and I say this often, I've been here 21 years without any family here whatsoever. And my closest family is 2 hours away. Hi, fam. I know they're all listening. Some in Oklahoma, some in Columbia, Kentucky, or some in Bowling Green, wherever you are. Hi, Mom. Hi, Aunt Poe. Hi, everybody. Anyway, out there listening. But I've stayed here because when I realized how awesome of an LGBTQ community there is here, how awesome of a music community there is here, how awesome of a theater community there is here, how artistic it is here.
It's a very artistic community. And one of the things I love about Louisville is that it feels like you're in a big city, but it feels like a hometown too. That's the way I think that's why people stay.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who could be probably having big careers elsewhere who love settling here and making a home, which is to Pandora's benefit for sure.
I agree.
We have actors who just want to make their home here, and they're amazingly talented.
Well, and I feel like too, I don't know in the acting world, but in the musician world, it's harder to be respected here, and you have to get outside of the box here. Because, well, I feel like that personally, because when I came here, I wanted to be I've always wanted to be a rock star. That's what I always wanted to do. And I didn't have kids or settle down, to be married because I wanted to pursue my love of music. Just like you were talking about, you traveled around and tried to make it as an actor. Well, that's what I've done. I've traveled around and tried to make it as a drummer my whole life or as an artist or whatever. But I feel like here in this city, I was not really that respected, and everybody always says, they come up and they say crazy things all the time, but, man, I really wish you could just get outside of here and do something, I feel like, people don't respect you here in the local community, whatever.
I don't think that's true, by the way.
Well, I don't think that's true either now. This was back in the day when they used to say this to me. And then it was after I started touring on the road in Canada and getting outside of this city, then I started to see the respect go up a whole lot more. And then once I got to L.A. And did that, when I came back, they say that famous quote, fame doesn't change you, it changes everybody around you. It was almost weird because when I came back, I just felt like people looked at me different. They treated me different. You know what I mean? And I don't know what it was about that one particular thing. But I was like, I'm no different. I just went out there and played a show and came back, But it seemed like I got a lot more respect after that moment.
I see that.
Yeah. So I don't know. And then, of course, the book came out. And then I started really getting some respect. And now I've got a documentary film coming out in theaters in September. So that's going to feature some of the biggest drummers in the country. Me too. There's never been a film on women drum set players. And I don't know if you saw the book. Here's the book. This book right here, this is the one that came out in 2013. It's called Women Drummers of History. Dawn Richardson, also in that book features Viola Smith, who's 107 and still playing drums.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
And she drummed with Frank Sinatra. But that was the first book written on women drum set players. So her story right there, and look at the cover. That's Jen Yates on that cover. With all my idols down there below me, the ones I grew up watching. Cindy Blackman Santana. I have Lenny Kravitz, who now is married to Santana. You've also got Sheila E. on there. She's going to be at our Kentucky State Fair this year.
Very cool.
All kinds of cool stuff. So basically, that book follows women drummers from prehistoric times till current. And then the documentary film is going to talk a lot about gender, LGBT, discrimination, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's, I've only seen a sneak peek, but it's supposed to be awesome. The drummer of Chicago's in there. Very famous drummers from all over, from the female scene to the male scene. They go to NAMM. They follow people around. They kind of followed me around teaching, and got a bunch of just different, random interview pieces. So it's
cool.
exciting, yeah. And it's going to premiere in Nashville in September, which we're really excited about. The filmmakers are from Canada. They've traveled the world getting all this documentary footage for the past year and a half. And we've had the filmmaker on the show, which is really awesome.
Wow, that is great.
So I felt like after that book came out, then it was like, okay, I felt like...
She's somebody.
Well, I felt like myself. I was like, you know what? I don't have to play bars anymore. You know what I mean? Because I kept saying, I'm 40 years old. I don't want to play bars the rest of my life. Like, that's not what I wanted to do with my career. I wanted to play.
And that's a hard life anyway.
It is.
I mean, playing bars all the time.
It is, especially when you're working on your sobriety.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you go out to bars, musicians get handed alcohol nonstop.
Yeah.
I always have to say no, thank you, or whatever, or hand it off to somebody else, or get me a Diet Coke, or whatever, a water. Or a coffee if they've got it, because some of these bars need coffee, just saying, for those of us who are not partaking. But yeah, so, it is a hard life to live. And I kept going, well, why am I doing this? Why am I playing this same place every month? Because the money, no offense, but the money around here is just not there. And if I can make in an hour teaching a kid what I can make in 5 hours out here at a bar, plus that doesn't include setting up my drums and loading my drums and tearing them down, then why am I doing it? I'm killing myself physically, because it's a very physical thing, Yeah. And I'm not the one.
You chose a very bulky instrument.
Yes, I know. Well, it chose me. I did not choose it, FYI.
My mistake.
Yeah, I know. No. I came out of the womb on a drum set. I mean, my dad was a drummer. He put me on a kit when I was really young, handed me sticks when I was really young. And I don't have any memory in my life without a drum set there. So I feel like it chose me. I would have chosen a piccolo. Actually, I would have chosen a harp. I want to play a harmonica. I mean, that's the easiest thing in the world. You can pick its own key, and you carry around your little box, and boom, you're there. You can go anywhere and play a harmonica, you know what I mean? But sometimes, trust me, if you see me carrying a washboard, you'll know why. Because I don't want to have to lug that big old drum set around.
Yeah.
But after the book, I felt like, I can relax a little bit. I don't have to play bars. I've already proven myself. You know, and I think it took all that for me to like believe in myself personally as an artist. Yeah. So I would rather be silent and not play everywhere. Just do every now and a blue moon kind of things. Awesome events, kid-friendly things, bigger events, and put out solo work and write my own stuff. Because I do feel like if you're going to be a true artist, you've got to continually keep putting yourself out there. And I just keep writing the life experiences, So, like Bougie was the last one I dropped. Gift of Gold, y'all. Kentucky Simple I dropped, which was the last one me and Bev did together. And I still have some stuff that we did that I'm going to put out. But the new one's got all kinds of really cool stuff all over it. And I sample all kinds of cool hooks from gospel to hip-hop to rock and roll to everything in between. Yeah. So,
cool. To hear it.
I know. And you're an artist, so you get that, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you're about to do some acting stuff.
I'm going to act for the Chicken Coop Theater in September.
I'm super pumped about that.
At the same time, directing 2 other shows.
What?
Yeah, I know. Crazy.
Yeah.
I'm directing a show at Center Stage also this fall.
Which is?
Bridges of Madison County.
Ooh, that's a gorgeous one.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So how do you... I'm just baffled by that. How do you conduct or direct 2 shows at the same time or acting in another one? Yeah.
A very, very careful and tight schedule.
Yeah. Do you do your own scheduling?
I do, yeah.
I was going to say, I do too, and it's really hard.
Yeah, it's a challenging thing. Yeah. And because the theaters I'm directing in nowadays are community-based theaters.
Yeah.
You know, we're working with volunteer actors for the most part. So you know, they have lives. And so I work around people's conflicts and try to make a schedule work for them and for me. Yeah. So it's a big puzzle, but worth it in the long run.
Man,
and I
that's
hope that
great.
People respect that. I think that they
absolutely.
Respect
I have a high amount of respect for anybody who does multiple things. I mean, you do have to have a certain type of drive for that.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse that I hate than working with lazy people. I mean, I've always had a drive
too.
Like no other.
My work ethic is just go.
Yeah,
so.
same. Yeah.
And and the secret to doing so many projects at the same time is just being present in the one that you're at.
I could see that. Yeah.
You know,
for me, I would think it would all get jumbled in my head. Like I don't know that I could do anything. Of course, I don't have the experience you have, but I mean, I would just think, wow, you know, I could do it probably in a musical sense, but not in a. You know, I would just think it all would run together.
The running together and confusing part comes after the rehearsal.
Yeah.
When it's, you know, when you have all of it flooding you. But while you're in the actual rehearsal hall, you're just in the rehearsal hall for that production.
What do you do? Is there anything special that you do to try to memorize lines? Because lyrics and words are always the hardest thing for me personally. So I would think as someone who didn't act, it would be incredibly hard to get up there and be in character and remember and memorize all these lines. Aren't there times where you just forget entire pieces of it?
Yes. There are.
And what do you do when that happens? Because there goes half of your. Okay, I was going to say because there goes half your storyline.
Just make it up.
Right.
I worked with one actor who, for me, I don't usually have a hard time making something up, and I can usually get back on track and get back. I worked with one actor who. When she goes up, that's what it's called when you forget your lines. She will just talk.
It's called that's what goes up. Wait, say it again.
Going up.
Going up. If you go up,
you've
forgotten.
Gone up.
Gone up meaning you've gone up to outer space and just completely forgot what was here present on Earth.
Yes.
Okay, get it. I got it.
Yeah. She'll talk for 10 minutes. She'll finally get back where
about
she's going.
About what?
Nothing and everything.
If I was sitting there in that,
it's such a skill.
I almost said congregation, not the Well, when I did the Christians, we always the audience is your congregation at that point, which I thought was brilliant. By the way,
did you do that in L.A.?
I did not do it in L.A. I did it in Naples, Florida.
Oh, okay.
But by the way, can I tell you, first acting experience ever, because they had me acting against the pastor who had been on Law and Order. He was on General Hospital. He was a doctor on General Hospital for like 20 years. Oh, wow. He also was on Broadway. I can't remember. Alan Campbell was his name. He had been in everything. And I had to get up and throw my drumsticks down and act all pissed off at him and storm out. And I was like, I don't act. You want me to do what? And they're like, yeah, the whole band's going to get pissed off and leave the church, you know. And I'm like, okay. And every night I did it different. And I mean, there was a couple times I almost tripped, you know, going. I had to come out of a drum set behind plexi, get all mad, throw my stuff down, and you remember you got cables going everywhere because My drums were mic'd up. So anyway, it was a mess. But also the lead on that, his wife was Amy Van Nostrand, who was married to Tim Daly. And she had been in Cagney Lacey, Law and Order. I mean, a ton of other stuff as well. I mean, it was like some major actors, you know, that I was up against. And I'm like, I don't acting was not my thing. I was hired in to play the drums, you know. Yeah. So anyway, that was a fun experience. Yeah. But I love that play, and I love how he wrote that. And I love all of his works. But yeah, I mean, that is just one that you really, you question, you know, your faith after that and what you stand for.
Oh, the best theater makes you think about
it
stuff like that.
It sure does. Yes, it does. Well, Michael, it's been awesome having him on here
today.
So
much fun.
See, it goes fast, doesn't it? I know it has. And, you know, is there anything else? Everybody, we want you to join them on Sunday at Play.
Bingo.
Drag Queen Bingo and Dauber.
And we open Torch Song on September 13th.
Okay, and say it one more time.
Torch Song.
September 13th. September 13th. We want you to check that out. That's at Pandora at the Henry Clay.
And you can find tickets at pandoraprods.org.
All right. One more time on the website.
pandoraprods.org.
Okay. We want you to get some tickets, and if you are not familiar with Pandora, we want you to be. Michael, it's been an honor to have you in on this show.
Thank you so much.
I learned so much about you. We had so much fun. And I'm going to leave you with What's Up by 4 Non Blondes, because he was saying, what song is that? And I said, you know this song.
I'm sure I do.
You know this song. It's a sing-along. It's what everybody wants to hear. Listen to it. You remember this one? You'll be singing it by the end of the chorus. Yeah, it's a sing-along. Anyway, it's been a fun show. You're on Generation Nation, The Walrus. Tune in tomorrow, and as always, keep it groovy.